Hello everybody, I'm back. It's Stewart A. Swerdlow
and Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow
for Expansions.com, and this is the very first week in July 2012, and you're probably wondering, gee, he looks awfully casual today, and that's because we are in the middle of a heat wave, not only in the United States, but apparently across a large part of the Northern Hemisphere. My friends in Europe tell me how hot it is there also. What does it mean when we have a heat wave like this? If you remember, I've been telling you for over 2 years now that since the Gulf incident occurred with the BP oil well spill, the jet stream, not the jet stream, but the Gulf Stream actually has stopped. And so because it's stopped, there's nothing mitigating all the heat that's built up in the Gulf and that area of the world from just moving on up. And at this time of year, there are no Arctic air masses that come down to mitigate that like it will do in the spring and in the fall. So in the summertime, without the Gulf Stream, we're going to have extreme dry heat, and there hasn't been really much rain at all, and things are drying up, and farmers' crops are suffering, and of course we can expect in the fall and early winter a food shortage and increases in the prices of food all across the world, and of course that will create other economic chaos. I do expect, though, as has been historically proven in the last 100 years, that most of the time when there is an extremely hot and dry summer, it is followed by an extremely brutal winter, and usually it comes on very suddenly towards October, November. And we'll see if this happens. But of course, as I've mentioned again many times, Russian scientists have said that by 2014 we will be in the middle or the beginning of an ice age, and of course 2012, 2013 will start the build up towards that. So I would expect that from now until at least September we will have heat waves like this. It will be dry, crops will dry up, and then that will be followed by very sudden drops in temperatures across the northern hemisphere and sudden onset of winter, a very short fall or autumn period. And also, I just want to let you know, I think this is the very first podcast that I've done since coming back from South Africa, and that was a very successful movie premiere in Cape Town for the Montauk Chronicles movie. Also, the premiere that I did in Montauk itself was very successful, and as many of you know, as a result of that premiere, I'm now blogging for Huffington Post on AOL. My first article has been posted, and I intend to place articles up at least once a week, twice if possible. So please keep your eyes open on Weird News section on Huffington Post. And also, I have been contributing to TripAdvisor because of all my trips everywhere I go, and I review hotels and restaurants, etc. So I am now considered a senior contributor to TripAdvisor, so you can see my reviews up on there as well. South Africa had a lot of mysteries. I learned a lot of information which I'll be writing about actually on the Huffington Post, so keep your eyes out for that. Holland was interesting as well, because all my life I always wanted to go to the Anne Frank house in Amsterdam to see how she lived and what that situation was, and I finally did it on this trip, and I have to say it was a bit disappointing. The place is quite tiny, it doesn't look like anything spectacular, and people are lined up for blocks and blocks and blocks around just to get in for that glimpse. Personally, I don't think it's worth it, and just want to let you know, I don't recommend going there because it's just not what you would expect. I also just came back from California, where I did film 2 movies that will be out hopefully April, May 2013, so I will keep you updated on that as time goes on. But as far as world news is concerned, I think it's very interesting that in the dry desert country of Mali in Western Africa, we find Muslim fundamentalists blowing up ancient sites in Timbuktu, which are considered World Global Heritage Sites, and of course it was considered by the United Nations to be, and I quote, an attack on global humanity. So once again we find fundamentalism and the Islamic tradition being criticized, and of course no one should be blowing up ancient sites, but this is an excuse to then go into Africa, because what's next to Mali, not too far away, is Nigeria. And as we know, in Nigeria, the Muslims have been attacking Christian sites and blowing up churches and vehicles, etc. So we're seeing Africa now become the new focus of the New World Order as far as crusades against the Muslim fundamentalists and using Christianity and ancient sites as justification for going in there. And you can see we have agreement from the animal kingdom. Do you have anything to add to that, Janet?
In general? All right, you want my news
Yes.
now? Okay, my news. My news always takes a little bit different twist than your news, of course, and while you were gone, I actually had people say, oh, we missed Stewart's, when is he coming back?
But I also heard that you did very well and people liked your reporting, and I thought maybe I was going to be let go.
Well, I considered that, but I'm letting you do this. This is a tryout, so the two of us will work together,
right. Go ahead.
and we'll see if that you pass inspection or not. We did have a few people who wrote in saying we should do it together, which we have done in the past, on and off.
I work alone.
Well, you do
That's
best
it.
alone. That I know. But I am a pretty good team player. So, on to Janet's news. Alright, so as you know, I like to give you the trends that are happening around the world. And we're going to start with the cannibalism, and until we get that one out of the way. It's kind of now like old news. However, this happened in China, so since that's new news, I thought I would throw that out there about the old news. So in China, in case you missed it, a woman was hospitalized after a drunken bus driver allegedly attacked her and began gnawing her face. The woman, who was identified as Du, was driving near a bus station when a bus driver identified as Dong
Don't even go there, okay?
climbed onto the hood of her car, began hitting the windshield, got her upset, she jumped out, he attacked her, bit off her face, again nose and lips, and the woman now needs plastic surgery.
Well, talk about taking one from column A and one from column B. That's like really going too far.
I agree. But anyway, I want to be sure that you didn't miss that latest episode on cannibalism. Now, I also wanted to go back to some old news that I told you about, because remember when Madonna was in Turkey, in Istanbul, and she flipped her nipple open at everybody, or flipped the top open, show the nipple, I should say, more specifically. And I said at that time, I said there's going to be more, and you're going to find nakedness being more accepted, because this is what they're putting in for New World religion. So what happened? 54-year-old, remember, we're not going to go for the little bouncy girls, where the 54-year-old Sharon Stone went braless in Paris, wearing a sheer top that showed off, yes, her nipples. So across the top, she had like a double layer of fabric, but beneath were hanging out her breasts and her nipples for everybody to see.
You know, the flight attendants do that to me every time.
Well, that's what I figured. Well, that's because you did it first. That's because you did it first.
I do it first, it's true. I admit.
All right, end of the world. Now, all of you, I hope you're holding your breath, because December 12th, December 21, 2012 is supposed to be the end of the world, right? You've been told that for how long? Now, all of a sudden, surprise, surprise, there's a newly discovered Mayan text that reveals that the end of the date for the Mayan calendar was really not what you think it is. This text that they found, again, surprise, talks about ancient political history rather than prophecy. This new evidence suggests that an important calendrical event would have been celebrated by the ancient Maya. However, they make no apocalyptic prophecies whatsoever regarding the date. So, where have you heard that one before?
Yeah, so that means we still have to pay our credit cards after
I guess
December.
so. We were going to really live it up.
Darn.
Darn. All right, now, alien news. Alien news to me is really now starting to surpass the cannibalism. Although that's going to continue to be in the background. They've laid the foundation for that. That's going to continue to pop up. However, now the alien stuff is taking again another twist as we head into the Olympics. Now, this is very interesting. This one tells us, this article that I was reading was actually, this is quoted by Paul Davies, who's an astrophysicist at Arizona State University, in an interview with Astrobiology magazine. He says, if there is another form of life on Earth, we could find it within 20 years if we take the trouble to look. Of course, it may not be there, but searching our own planet is far easier than searching another one. Now, what's interesting about his article is he is saying Perhaps the most fascinating possibility is if aliens use bioengineering to leave behind unintentional or intentional traces or messages in the DNA of life on Earth. Now again, where have you heard this before? Stewart and I have been talking about this for decades, and the film Prometheus, which I told you about, again, talked about the human bioengineers. Now here we have an astrophysicist, and this is not going to be put forward by an astrophysicist who's working at Arizona State University unless that's what the global handlers want you to hear.
They always give you the information that they want you to know, but in a way that isn't exactly the truth, but still reveals a portion of it so they can build on that in the future.
Absolutely. Now, I want to tell you something else before I get to something that's going to be more entertaining, but I'll give you the...
It's not about me, is it?
Well, it could be, knowing you. Okay, this was just out this week. Warm-blooded dinosaurs. How many of you saw that one? They are now discussing whether or not that the dinosaurs were actually warm-blooded versus cold-blooded, because they're comparing the growth on the animal bones to tree trunks, right? Now, in my opinion, what they're trying to do is they're trying to give you the impression more of warm, fuzzy Dracos, don't you think?
Well, that's kind of like my family.
Yeah. We won't even go there. So,
except they're not warm and fuzzy.
Point being is they now are kind of warming you up. Now, that's what I wanted to tell you first. Second of all, if any Draco come knocking on your door, you are going to be prepared with a snack.
Like a face and a nose and lips?
Well, no, more something that supposedly they like to eat, because there's a new company called Chapul, C-H-A-P-U-L. You can look this one up on the website or on the internet. Founded by two college roommates that aim to introduce America slowly to the benefits of eating insects with nutritious but approachable cricket energy bars. Insects, they say, are environmentally friendly and extremely nutritious, but the largest hurdle to the industry is the psychology.
We could have a feast in our ravine.
We could. But the interesting thing is I think the last time we did it together, I talked about the giant bugs that were kind of the new.
I didn't like the way you
nutritious
cooked
thing.
them last time.
Well, we'll try this cricket bugs and see if that
maybe
works.
try that.
So anyway, you'll have treats if the Dracos show up knocking on your door. All right, now we've also been talking to you about that they're going to be seeing more and more things flying around out in space, and they're going to be calling them asteroids. And of course, what have we got here on the news? A team of ex-NASA astronauts and scientists think that it's up to them to protect the Earth from killer asteroids. In a bold plan, which they unveiled this past Thursday, the group wants to launch its own space telescope to spot and track small and mid-sized space rocks capable of wiping out a city or a continent. With that information, they could sound early warnings if a rogue asteroid appeared headed toward our planet. Okay, this makes no sense. They're going to wipe us out anyway, so why do we want to know? Not me. Just let me go in peace. All right, the group thinks that more attention should be paid to the estimated 500,000 smaller asteroids, similar in size to the one that exploded over Siberia in 1908 and leveled more than 800 square miles of forest.
Except that was not actually an asteroid or a comet. It was actually a spaceship that blew up with nuclear material, and Soviet scientists actually found the radiation and what was then what we consider now to be digital equipment that was melted into the rock and trees in the area. So no, it was not a natural object.
That's correct. But what they're doing is they're putting that in your head. They're reminding you of Siberia, because they're going to come up with Siberia and tell you, oh, we made a mistake. It actually was a UFO. It actually was something other than an asteroid. But again, they're putting this out for you. And these scientists say, or the foundational chairman, I'll quote specifically, former shuttle astronaut Ed Lu, L-U, maybe he knows what to do, that got the nose bitten.
Or Don, he might know Don.
Maybe. We're playing cosmic roulette. We're flying around the solar system with these other objects. The laws of probability eventually catch up to you. Okay? Interesting stuff. Now, next, again in the alien vein, because we've got a lot of this going on, we have alien contact. And I'm sure most of you have heard by now about the WOW signal that was found when in 1977.
I didn't hear about that one.
Yep, a mysterious radio transmission was detected in 1977 that may or may not have come from extraterrestrials is finally getting a response from humanity. It is the only blip of incoming data to have stood out from the noise in the 4 decades that astronomers have been scouring the heavens for signs of life. And we're only hearing about this now, right? Okay. This comes from, of course, SETI, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence. And we hear that this particular one was picked up It was a 72-second radio transmission coming from the direction of the constellation Sagittarius. At its peak, the transmission was 30 times more powerful than ambient radiation from deep space, which prompted the volunteer astronomer Jeremy Amon to scrawl "wow" next to the data on the computer printout. So now they are trying to figure out how to contact whoever sent this out, and scientists say the signal would have required a 2.2 gigawatt transmitter, vastly more powerful than any existing terrestrial radio station. So therefore, he says it has to come from an extremely advanced civilization.
Which we know is not from the Earth.
So interesting, again, from 1977. So who knows if this ever even happened?
Well, the thing is, they investigated it back then.
If it happened.
Because, and so they only now going back to, because they're getting ready for the staged alien invasion and release of information of a controlled nature. So that's why they're doing it. And that's why the Russians reviewed their spacecraft information from 1980s on Venus that saw dinosaur-like creatures on the surface of Venus, and 30 years later reported it. But they knew it then. They're only giving the information now because now is the time to tell public what's going on, so that they can prepare you for whatever global events they're getting ready for.
Yep. And again, along the same line, now this one is kind of been continuing to build. This is water on other planets. So we've been talking about, you know, little remnants here or microscopic stuff there. This one now is saying that one of Saturn's moons, called Titan, which I thought was interesting, may have a salty ocean beneath it. If it's confirmed, it would catapult Titan into an elite class of solar system moons harboring water, an essential ingredient for life. Now notice, they're again going to moon, because what is our moon?
It's hollow and artificial.
Right, so they're keeping the moon. They're not talking planet now, they're talking moon, because they want to keep that in your mind. They're opening up that frequency. And I talked about this on the news some time back, the shock value, opening up frequency. And I've also talked about this on the webinars. Hopefully you're joining me there. All right. Having an internal body of water would make Titan an attractive place to study whether it would be capable of supporting microbial life. Other moons on the short list are Jupiter's Europa, where an underground ocean is thought to exist, another Saturn moon, Enceladus, where jets have been spewing from the surface. Any environment that has liquid water needs to be investigated carefully, said planetary scientist Jean-Luc Margot of the University of California in LA, who had no role in the research. So why they're quoting him, I don't know.
They don't quote me, and I had no role in the research.
And you've been talking about it for years.
There must be a cult list that they go to.
There must be.
Yeah.
Okay, now speaking of you and what you have to say.
I knew I was going to be in there.
Yeah. I was thinking this guy should come and work for expansions.com. Because this man, Nicholas Drapella, an Oregon State University faculty member and vocal critic of climate change, was fired without explanation from his job. All right? On May 29th, he received a call in his office from the department chair, who read him a prepared statement, informed him he would need to turn in his office key. They did not tell him why he was being fired. His requests for an explanation have not been answered, and he said to the news station who reported this, KVAL, an absolute shock. He said, I had no idea anything like this was coming. He said he was blindsided by the firing, and when he requested to know why he was fired, he says he was referred from school official to school official in circles. Now, let me tell you, this is why he's fired. And like I said, he needs to come work for us. Okay. Drapella was a vocal denier of climate change, saying that it was man-made, and his views were anything but secret.
Oh, denier changes man-made.
Is a vocal, what did I say?
You said that he denied it. Anyway, he denied that it was a man-made.
Let's see, he has a slideshow called Global Warming Cracked Open. And he says global warming doctrine is no longer just a scientific theory. It is a populist social and political tool. The same slideshow suggests global warming is part of a new world order and an attempt to establish global governance. The only reason people don't link it to solar flares is because they can't make money off of it.
Okay, that's true.
Okay, so this is why he's being fired. So he knows, and we know, and like I said, he needs to bring his information here.
So there's proof that in the United States there is no freedom of thought, is no freedom of speech, and if you don't go along with what they tell you, you will be eliminated.
And we have talked about this before, about how now that anything to do with climate change has to be approved by the government.
Yeah.
So apparently this was not approved.
Apparently all scientific research or results have to be approved by government overseers before it can be announced, because if it doesn't go along with what the government wants people to believe, it cannot be given to the public.
Okay. Now the other thing I want to talk to you about, again, which Stewart and I have talked to you about, is called priming, and I hope you watched that little video that I have on my site which talked about the power of suggestion, because the interesting thing was not even the exercise, which of course was easy enough to follow and to fall into, but it was told how this happens to you every day. So this was very blatant. What they do behind the scenes is not so blatant, so they lead you a certain way until they get you to give the correct response, called priming. So they're admitting that now, so I thought that was very interesting. So be sure you watch. It's a little clip, but it tells you that in there. Okay, now to follow, we've also told you about the subliminal messages and logos. We talk to you all the time about hyperspace language and the archetypes, which is one of the things that we do. And so I just wanted to follow on the heels and to show you a couple of things. Baskin & Robbins, for example, has a 31 hidden right in plain sight in their logo, which I hadn't really seen. And of course, when they first came out, that's an ice cream store here in the States, there were 31 flavors, and that's what they were famous for. But I never saw the 31 before. I only saw the B and the R. So look at this logo. The next one I want you to look at is the Big Ten Conference, which has an 11 hidden in the shadow space, or what we call the negative space. Originally there were 10 institutions until 1990, but when the 11th one joined, rather than change the name, they changed the negative space to hold that number 11. So there are all these subliminal triggers out there. That's why you must be aware of, open up your mind so that you can find, see, and not react to these things, because they're all around you. So they're telling you what they're doing here. Okay, and I think my last thing that I want to talk to you about, I'm sure I didn't skip anything. Okay, the last thing I wanted to talk to you about was just kind of a reminder, again, kind of back to the old news sort of thing, but I've been talking to you a lot about parasites, parasitic mind patterns. If you have a parasitic mind pattern, people are going to feed off of you. The global handlers are feeding off of you. And you want to stop that in your life, no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing. And of course, what is the non-physical representation of that, or that's the non-physical. The physical representation is the parasites, which I even talked to you about people using that as therapy. So go back and review those podcasts if you missed it. But there are some where they use it as therapy. Here they're reminding you because a doctor in India removed a 5-inch worm from the conjunctiva, is that how you say it?
Conjunctiva.
Conjunctiva of that's the white part of the eye. The man that went to him had a twitch in his right eye. He went to the doctor. He saw the wiggling thing under the white eye. They had to cut that open and they pulled out a 5-inch parasite. And he said, oh, somehow the worm gets into the bloodstream and grows inside the human body. Well, I can guarantee you, if there was one, there's a lot more in there. So we do have on the website the Parasite Cleanse, which I highly recommend. We have a lot of other things to clean you out of parasites. But of course, all that is a boost to the mind pattern. You must clean this out here so that you don't allow other people, places, and things to suck off of you. That's part of victim mentality. Victim mentality draws the oppressors, blah, blah. Time to stop all that. So join us on our website. Be sure you get onto the member site because...
Oh, yes. This morning while I was working out in the basement, there was a commercial on the radio that said that I forgot the name of the company, but they said they gave special discounts to vampires. Yeah. Now
they're going to keep that in the forefront. Now that's not going to go away. None of it will go away. And there's lots of stuff on the news if you keep your mind open. So I try and keep it down to just the tip of the iceberg to kind of give you something to be aware of, to keep your mind open for. But, excuse me, it's almost immersion week too.
Oh, yes.
So if you haven't signed up for that, we have, I think, about 4 to 6 spaces left. I'm not sure how many. We have a special offer to our Facebook friends.
And to vampires.
So if you go on to Facebook, you'll find that special offer for the immersion week. We also have in September the, excuse me, the Pyramid Storehouses of Knowledge, which is coming up, fascinating, our 10th annual conference, although Expansions has actually been in business almost 20 years. This is our 10th annual conference.
Actually, it's been more than 20 years, hasn't it?
Well, officially I started the company in 1990.
So it's 22 years.
22, wow. Time is passing. Yeah, time is passing. Plus, it was unofficial before then. So
it was in Oregon.
And Washington.
And Washington
I've been all over.
Yeah, she's all over, if you know what I mean.
So anyway, you want to join us in September, we have a fabulous trip going to Russia, where we're actually going to be taking you inside using the bear frequency, which of course is a frequency of Russia, the rose frequency, which is the other frequency of Rosa. La rose means the rose, and lots of fascinating things. We're going to be studying the journey of Emmanuel through that country, to that area, correct? So go on their website for details. And in the meantime, we have our webinars. Oh, I forgot, a very special summer sale. This one's going to help you boost up your income stream, because you're going to find out about the money program, which is perpetuated upon you by the global handlers. It's time to break that. And that's what Stewart and I are out to tell you. A lot of people write in, oh, spiritual information should be given away for free. That is bull crappy. That is what the global handlers put out. They're dividing the church and money, and that is all programming. God mind is limitless abundance of prosperity for each and every one of you. It's time you tapped into that reservoir. So the webinars, please join us. We're going to be teaching you that. We have a very special summer sale. Look that up on the website. Join me on the blog. Stewart and I both post there regularly. We interact with you regularly. And those are the people who are serious about our work, about learning and growing. And you're the ones we give the most to, because you're the ones who give the most back to us in many, many ways. You support us and we support you, and everything goes around. It's an amazing place to be. Expansions.com, one-stop shop. We have everything that you could possibly want to change your life around. Remove yourself from the chaos of the outer world, go into your inner world, find out who and what you are.
And don't forget, next month, August and into September, I will be in Iceland, England, Scotland, Ireland, and Morocco. So any of you watching out there, come and see me in those places.
Lots of stuff going on. We're not a dull and boring place, so if you're watching this, most likely you're not a dull and boring person.
Anyone has
either.
a private jet with a lot of vodka and red wine on it, I will be very happy to use your vehicle.
Yeah. Thank you for joining us. This is Diane Mourglia-Swerdlow with Expansions.com and
Stewart A. Swerdlow from the same place.
And I'll have to review to see if I can let you do the news with me again.
I know. Next time I'll wear less.
Bye-bye.
Bye.